For my final in this class, I chose to do the annotated bibliography. I did the months November, September, and March, but I didn't put them in that order, so you'll just have to excuse that. But I'm just going to go through, highlight some of the things that I found for each month, and then explain how I would use that in my classroom or why. So for November, the one book I would for sure use is H for Honor. I've already touched on that a little bit. It is a great book. It has lots of really neat illustrations, just very detailed, very abstract. Like, I just really like the feel of that book. It also takes really big concepts and words and simplifies them for children to understand. It still, I think, needs some explanation sometimes, but for the most part does a really good job at doing this. Um, the other book that I found that was really interesting for November was I Don't Have Your Eyes. And I think I used it for National Adoption Day. And I think it's important for kids to understand that family isn't just physically looking like other people. It's a lot deeper. There's a lot more of a mental and spiritual connection with people. So I would want to read this book to them and kind of inspire them to think about what makes them family with their family members minus their physical appearance. So, like, their thoughts and their actions and their mentality and their beliefs and morals and that kind of thing, just to make them dig a little bit deeper, because for kids that are adopted, they don't always look like their parents, even though sometimes they kind of do. They don't at the same time, but they're still family with them. So I think that would be a really cool concept to have my kids kind of think about and ponder. These are just my poems. For the apps and websites, the Cyberman was wonderful, provided lots of different links, activities, over 20,000 different links, which I thought was really interesting because it's just one man that does it. Lots of quizzes and games and that kind of thing for children to know about the history of Thanksgiving, how it's changed, what it looks like now, say, in a modern world. But for my activities, I like the whole idea of a shout out. This is something that can be applied all year long, but teachers just model the acknowledgement of students who have done kind deeds throughout the day, and they just publicize that. And so it makes the student feel good. It makes them know that they're not going unnoticed, so it encourages them to keep doing it. And then after a while, you can have kids start doing that with each other, which I think would be super cool, to have kids pay attention to each other and acknowledge them that way. It kind of just builds morale. I feel like that's something I would do at the end of the day, just to kind of leave on a good note. For March, I did Dr. Seuss's birthday, Purim, National Pie Day, St. Patrick's Day, and World Poetry Day. My favorite book was The Boy Who Loved Math, and it was about a boy who, from a young age, this is the story of Uncle Paul, and so he was gifted with these unnatural gifts of just being able to multiply and divide these long things, long math problems in his head. And it was just really inspiring to read that one little gift changed his entire life. And growing up, he wasn't always looked at the same. And so I want kids to know that it's okay to be different. It's okay to express your gifts, and you shouldn't have to hide that. But you could also do cross-curricular and do math and reading, which would be really cool. Falling Up, I absolutely love Shel Silverstein. I think this is a great collection of poems to introduce kids to poetry. Lots of beginner poems, but at the same time, some older poems for older kids. And then these are just my poems that I found for March. Where is it? Ken Nesbitt's Poetry for Kids was my all-time favorite website over this whole paper. He did such a really good job at making it kid-friendly, kid-accessible, lots of cool colors, illustrations. He even had a section on there for teachers to go and download lesson plans and activities to introduce kids to poetry. You could edit those to take things out or add some things in. I really liked that. Lots of videos, books, dictionaries, games, that kind of thing for children to get hands-on with. I really liked this Truffula Tree family for Dr. Seuss Day. not only is it an educational activity, but it's also fun to tie in for Dr. Seuss Day. You could even do something with science about it, with the Lorax and the need for oxygen and carbon dioxide. But I like the CBC words that they have chosen and how it would be easy for kids to sort each one out and create their own trees with it. For September, where is it? This Yom Kippur shortstop. It was a story about a young boy who had the chance to, he could either play in his Little League championship or observe Yom Kippur with his family, which is the holiest day of the year for Jewish families. And so I think this would be relatable for kids because at some point or another they've been in a similar situation. And so we don't know what he'll decide. You'll have to read the book, but I it's also really educating on Yom Kippur and just the Jewish culture because not a lot of kids know about it unless they are raised in a Jewish household. So, and then some more poetry. Um, and then the Constitution website was my favorite for this month because it broke down into sections: younger students, middle-aged students, high school, and there was even a section for adults. And depending on which category you fell into, you could click on it and learn more about the Constitution. I think it's really important for kids to see that there's accessible things out there to help teach them such big concepts about the Constitution because that's something everyone should know about since we do live here and we do abide by it. You can't obey something if you don't know what it says. So you also can't govern a country or um, be president over a country if you don't know what it says, and you have to abide by that. So if we want to raise good citizens and have them one day be in our government, they're going to have to know what governs them. So I just really, really liked this website. This Kitty House website was also really good. It took really, really big concepts about Yom Kippur and kind of simplified it, brought it back in for kids, which was really helpful when learning about it because even I wasn't for sure about 100% of Yom Kippur. This branches of government activity might have been one of my favorites. I think it's a good way to introduce the branches of government, show their distinct qualities. It's also could be a good review game if you just took down all the leaves and had students put them up there and match which characteristic goes with which branch. It's important to know which branches do what, just in case they would ever get involved in government, and so that you could see what is right and what is wrong with our government today. And then these two activities for Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah were just baking activities. I think it would be cool to bring in a taste of a culture to your classroom, especially for students that haven't experienced that themselves, considering that it's you don't get a lot of students who are in your class that are just Jewish and love to talk about it. So I think that would be cool for them to get a physical taste of what that culture would be like. But this is my annotated bibliography. So yeah.